After Bam Abaque, we got a Mexican dinner, hit 700 subscribers, and played some mini golf at the campground. The next morning, we got some exquisite Dutch Brothers coffee, enjoyed the amazing views you can see from anywhere, even at a gas station, went to the petroglyph forest, caught a grasshopper because no grasshopper is safe from this youngling. This was a new kind of landscape for us and we couldn't stop taking pictures. Instead of showing every single one, here's all of them. We went to the Four Corners where 4 states connect at one point, and since it's a thing that people want to do, they charge admission. And if you don't get there when they're open, they close the gates and you're not allowed to stand on a random piece of dirt until they open again. I took a time lapse, but since clouds apparently don't move out here, it looks like a still photo. After waiting in line to stand on ground, we definitely only took 3 photos there and then continued the journey. We saw more cool new things like these little cyclones that would appear out of nowhere. A few hours later, I realized I never stood in the Colorado quadrant of the Four Corners place. We got to the next KOA, I set up camp and stepped on cactus twice. The desert was just beyond beautiful. The sand was super fine and it was almost nice to have bare feet, except that everything out there wants to stab you.
I'll do it later.
This was probably my favorite campsite of the whole trip. Amazing views, favorable company, lots of sand to play in, and a good old bowl of college soup. I put the GoPro on top of the car and got a somewhat more noticeable time lapse. And that night I saw a star-filled sky more clearly than I have ever seen in my entire life, but I didn't have my phone out for it. Next morning was more cool views. We got up early to see a sunrise, which was majestic. I saw a little red lizard, which was also majestic, in more of a lizard kind of way. We swung on some swings, climbed on some monkey bars, and headed out. We rest stopped at a rest stop called Cameron, which was selling some unreleased Lego sets. After that, we arrived at one of the main goals of the trip, the Grand Canyon, which none of us had ever seen before in person.
She is grand and she is canyon.
I don't know how that. I feel like that's just pretend, just in a mirror.
I know I keep using this word, but it was amazing. We took many pictures. They looked like this. We didn't know too many people on this side of the country, but our next door neighbor's parents lived in Arizona, so that was our next overnight stay. It was a really cool little farm with a few dogs, cockatiel, chickens, ducks, horses, fish, and a wild toad that escaped. The next day was another one of my favorite parts of the trip, an abandoned town in Jerome, Arizona. The whole place was technically a mine, but also a dumping ground for antique trucks that this guy collected. They aren't fancy or restored or famous movie cars. In fact, as I wandered the area, being careful to stay within the rattlesnake boundaries, I realized that they are almost all old commercial work trucks. I thought that was really cool, since usually you see super clean or intentionally patinaed cars and trucks in shows that have always been privately owned, but these were literally just like, well, the company's finished with this flatbed. Then it would probably sit somewhere for a few decades until Don Robertson came along and scooped it up. It wasn't just one kind of truck either. He had buses, tow trucks, tankers, delivery vans, plow trucks, fire trucks, cranes, and all kinds of cabs that have seen many, many miles on the job. After we left there, we drove through Sedona to see the Red Rocks and also saw this weird house on the side of a mountain. Later that day, we got to our next base of operations in Phoenix, Arizona, with a family we knew who recently moved out there. The next day, we would finally visit another Lego store, if the heat didn't kill us first.
In a way, slam the door. Here I stand in the light. That is your person. I could never bother me.